Yeah! Sweet dreams.
Hello, monkeys! Welcome back to my channel. And today we are finally going over Rebellion! Yay! I am so sorry that I am late for this tutorial, and I'm sorry it's also a decent amount long. Not too bad. I mean, could be worse, but you know how that tends to go whenever you're working on costumes and stuff. But this is a really fun tutorial, and I haven't really seen one out there for the sword. So, of course, Dante's not complete without his sword. Now remember, this is from Devil May Cry 3. This can go for anybody. Alright, let's get this started. First, you're going to have to print out all these templates. I have these down in the description. I believe I'll have to look it up on my phone and double check. I'm pretty sure I do. But if not, all you have to do is blow up a picture of Rebellion, quite literally, because that's literally what I did. If I don't have the templates in the description, I am very sorry. But you just literally print out the concept art of Rebellion and blow it up to the size about what you're going to need for this particular costume. I know it sounds a little complicated, but it's actually not too bad. Or you can, you know, freehand it. I know a lot of people that happen to actually do that, so you can go that route too instead if you would like. And one thing I realized when doing this is that if you don't line it up evenly, it's obviously not going to turn out okay. So make sure that you line it up really, really well. Otherwise, it's not going to come out straight, and you're going to be very, very angry, and you're going to be like me and sitting here and trying to adjust it and fix it several times. Now, I would suggest whenever you are doing this, if you want his face and arms to be symmetrical and the spine, I highly suggest you only print out half of his arm and face, because you can just flip it to the other side to mimic it. I would highly suggest that. And try to split it into as many parts as possible so that way you can get an accurate size for yourself. I believe mine, I mean, he stands pretty tall. He goes about a little past my chest, I believe. So I'd say he's about a foot underneath me. If you hear me clinking and clanging, it's because he's with me right now, because I'm sitting here like, how tall are you? But yeah, that's about how short he is compared to me. Not really that short. And make sure you piece it all together to where it looks like it's going to be appropriate before you go tracing it onto the foam board. I got this foam board at the Dollar Tree. Granted, it's not the best, but I just needed a little base to go off of so I could put the Instamorph over it. So I used about, I believe it was 3 foam boards, because I needed 2 for the sword, and then I needed 1 for all the decoration pieces that you're going to need, like the face and the handle, you know, things like that that you kind of need for a sword. And I would suggest you trace it onto the foam board first. Do not go trying and cutting it first, because I would have almost messed up if I did that, but I highly suggest you don't. And like you see, what I'm doing here is I'm moving pieces back and forth, that way I can make sure it's nice and even. That's why I made sure to include this part in there, because since, you know, it only printed out halfway, I had to adjust some of it. This is the problem that you could have. So eyeball it, make sure it looks correct, and I suggest after you know, put it onto the foam board like the template, I suggest you slowly peel it away. Like, don't peel it too fast. Like, slowly peel with the tape away. You'll see that in the clip here in a minute. And you know, go ahead and mark the lines as you go, because if you do that, you won't have to go back later and be like, is this straight, is this not straight? Because it's important. It's very, very important when you go to actually cut this. And what I suggest is when you go to cut foam board, do 3 passes. One's for the paper, one's for the metal piece, and the last one's for the last bit of that paper that it likes to cling onto. And you'll see that mine is decently rough as far as the edges go, so I suggest you actually do 4 or 5. Take your time with this. Rebellion in general probably took me about, I want to say 3 days total to make him, and that's, you know, in between regular life, so I'd say about 10 to 20 hours worth of work. So this isn't the tedious part, believe it or not. And make sure you put that line down there in the middle, because this is going to show you your bevel point, because you want him to have a little bit of a slope, that way he looks more realistic. So as I said, I suggest 4 or 5 passes and take your time with it. I was rushing because it was practically, of course, con crunch or apocalypse week. So I suggest you take your time with it, because he will turn out so much better. I love Rebellion, I love the way he turned out, but at the same time, of course, I wish I could fix stuff on him. And like, for example, him being bumpy and stuff like that, which you can fix that if you take your time, and if you're not doing this in the middle of a con crunch. Keep in mind that this costume did take me 5 months to make, so keep that in mind. Anyway, now we're going on to assembling all the pieces together. Remember, like I said, cut 2 a piece of everything and use hot glue to put it together. Hot glue will not hold it together completely. Just to pre-warn you, this is just to hold it together for now, so we can put the Instamorph over it. It's kind of like whenever you use school glue to put something there temporarily, this is what this is, because it's not going to hold very well. And as I mentioned before, hot glue is very, very hot, so please be very, very careful when you are using a hot glue gun. Use parental supervision, you know, all that fun jazz. So be sure to keep an eye out on that, and do this to all of your pieces, every single one of them. I believe I left the majority of the pieces in here, that way you can see that I did do it to all the pieces. And if yours has paper on it, I didn't do this at first, but I highly suggest you do this. Go ahead and take that paper off, because it's going to become troublesome whenever it comes to the Instamorph stuff. So try to do that, and it would work a lot better. So I wish I did that at first. Now we're actually putting the pieces together. You're going to want to put the spine on first after you get all the other pieces together, and then put his actual body on the back, and then put the spine on top. This is so everything looks symmetrical, and that way that piece is also in the middle. So, because his body, you know, takes up the middle of it, because the sword comes out of his body. So this is what you're going to want to do. You're going to see some gnarly looking clips here shortly, because I tried to put a battery pack in him and it did not work out so well, because I went to the Dollar Tree and used cheap battery stuff, and the connection wires weren't working very well with the Instamorph because they broke too easily. So if you get a little more of an expensive battery pack, like you see here, the hole, yeah, that's what that is. That's where the battery pack was supposed to go, but it didn't happen. So if you can avoid it, I suggest it. If not, you know, you can add that in there. You can see how I made the curves and stuff to put the lighting in the eyes, but it's not really that big of a deal. But all you do with Instamorph is literally heat it up over the stove in some hot water, and, you know, cook it till it's nice and, you know, all stretchy and plasticky, and then you just literally get gobs of it. I went through an entire package, like a lot of Instamorph for this thing. This just too much. You want to put a thick layer on there, because you want to make sure that it's going to survive, you know, the con and the rain and the weather and everything else. And it's going to be skipping back and forth throughout all this, because this is literally the longest process out of everything at all, is just this part in general, adding it to the entire sword, which I highly recommend that you just add it to the sword as you go, and just do like a flat base. Don't bother, you know, adding the spine or the embellishments or anything like that just yet. Just get you a flat base first, and then go back into the embellishments. And I used a heat gun and some water, like a little bit of cold water, because what happens is whenever you use cold water, it helps erase the fingertips on there. That way it doesn't show up after your paint job. That's why it doesn't really show up on my sword after, you know, it's been painted and embellished and all that other stuff, is because I used the heat gun, you know, melted it a little bit, which if you do this with the heat gun, the Instamorph is going to get hot really, really fast, and it's gonna burn. So be cautious, try to wear gloves. I am a dodo bird, and I decided not to wear gloves. But I highly suggest it because my fingertips were burned for a very, very long time, and it was not smart of me. But I wanted those fingertips gone. Well, I ended up losing some fingertips, it seemed. So, just smooth everything out. Be careful with the, you know, the heat gun. I don't know why I said hot glue gun. It's a heat gun, but you know what I mean. But please be cautious when using that, and make sure, you know, same thing as the hot glue gun. It's obviously hot because, you know, heat comes out of it, and it will also melt the foam if you sit on one spot for too long. So you want to make sure you move around everywhere. So I'd only use the heat gun just to actually get in the crevices and to help smooth things out, basically, once you start adding the layers on there. And here you see that, you know, I did the spine separate, and now I'm actually starting to do the sword. That's the part you actually want to try to keep as smooth as possible, is the actual blade part. And here's the spine. As you can see, I'm starting to embellish now. You just get little long noodle pieces and add it to the top and melt it as you go. That's the cool thing about Instamorph. As long as it's not painted, you can actually, you know, melt it as you go with the heat gun, which you need to be very careful about. And here I'm adding little eyeballs. It's just little rings, you know, pretty simple. I mean, it's just like the noodles on the spine. It's not that hard. And then, you know, a little nose. And remember, he has two faces. He has a human side and a demon side. We're currently working on the demon side. So you want to make sure you have a few of these noodles, because I wanted his eyes to be angry for the demon side, and for the human side I wanted him, you know, to be nice, because, you know, demons are supposed to be meaner, supposedly, in this world. So, yeah. And the way that I did the teeth is I made a long strip, and then I cut with scissors when it wasn't too, like, solid, but when it wasn't too wet either. It's, like, plasticky, but to where it can keep the shape. And I did 4 really big teeth, and then I did a whole bunches of little teeth, all the way around to where he has, like, this demon open mouth and everything, because I did the Dante version, you know, without the sleeve, so therefore his mouth needs to be open on the demon side, and his demon side needs to be shown out, because, you know, if you follow the game, you'll understand that part. And don't forget, like I said before, you have 2 sides. So, and the heat gun is just to push it all down and smooth it, and to help it stick. And I suggest you try to place and see exactly where you want your teeth before you settle it on it. And that's what the demon side looks like. Sorry for my bad camera angles, apparently. And then here's the human side. See, nose, teeth, but mouth is closed, eyes look normal. And now we're gonna add horns to the demon side. Make sure the other side is dry. I did not make sure that the other side was completely solid and dry, and it stuck to my table, which is not good. You do not want it to stick to the table. So make sure you do that. And hold it up, because it's gonna try to, you know, do the thing where it's like, ooh, I'm free, I'm free. So use a heat gun, mold it to your advantage, but try to hold it up there so that way it evens out with the other side. And smooth it as best as you can. It's not going to be 100% perfect. Plus this sword is supposed to look rugged, so kind of helps with, you know, the look. Then, you know, shortly after that, you want to actually add the handle piece. Like, obviously, you know, combine the pieces together, but you want the little spikes at the top, because like I said, this is this version of Dante's sword. So you want to add little spikes at the top for more intimidation purposes. And that is really it for the embellishment part of it. So there you go. There's Rebellion. Enjoy on camera, E-Monk, for the painting info.
Hey guys, I didn't get this on recording, so I'm sorry. We're gonna have to use my little okay, I'm sorry, I'm adjusting. Ah, there we go. Okay. For Rebellion, this is what I did. I used chrome silver paint to start. Try not to knock everything over to start with. Let's see. And then what I did afterwards is I went over him with some black acrylic. and I just went in there and basically dry brushed it. Also, he looks weathered and old looking and dirty, because he's not exactly clean. I mean, demon slaying. Hello. And then I added the red for the eyes. I had this pack on originally. It was a battery pack for light up, but didn't work out so well. First time trying with it, and I didn't do so well. And I also bought very cheap lighting, and it just, yeah, would not recommend it unless you get decently expensive lights. And you might see the rough patches on the back that I kept out of the tutorial. That's for the magnets, because he was supposed to be able to click onto my gun holster. That way, you know, I wouldn't have to carry him all the time. Well, that didn't work at all, because what ended up happening was he was too heavy. He weighs about 10 pounds, and I'm carrying him with one hand everywhere. So he gets pretty heavy with this method, but he's sturdy. He's not breaking anytime soon or anything like that. So after I painted him and got him all pretty bad, I went over it with Mod Podge, about 3 coats, and I suggest, because I didn't do this very well, it was also the day before con. You see the very, very tip? Yeah. I suggest Mod Podging that tip a lot, because you're going to pose with him a lot. So, I hope y'all enjoy Rebellion, and I hope y'all have an amazing day, and sorry that I'm late post-con, you know, I mean, it just happens. And I'm trying to learn this new editing software, so we'll see what happens. But that is it. I hope y'all have an amazing time. I'll be posting another video here shortly, and I will see y'all next time for the makeup. Happy cosplaying. See ya later.
Jackpot.
Thank you to all of my Patreon supporters for making all of these videos possible. To become a Patreon supporter, go to patreon.com/emonk060292 or look in the description or in the eye above. Thank you guys!